Here's something that doesn't make sense on paper. A freelance graphic designer making $90,000 a year checks his bank account every single morning before he checks his messages. A software contractor pulling in over six figures hasn't taken a real vacation in 3 years because she's terrified that the moment she stops working, the money stops too. A copywriter who just had her best year ever still flinches every time an invoice is 2 days late. None of these people are bad with money. None of them are broke. And yet, almost every freelancer and gig worker you'll ever meet carries around a low hum of financial anxiety that never fully switches off, no matter how much they earn. If you're one of them, I want to tell you why that happens. Because it isn't a personal failing. It's not that you're bad at managing money or that you haven't found the right budgeting app yet. It's something structural, something baked into how irregular income actually works on your brain. And once you understand the mechanism, you can start doing something about it. So let's actually break this down. The first thing to understand is that your brain didn't evolve to handle income the way freelancers and gig workers receive it. For almost all of human history, and frankly for most of the 20th century, income was something that arrived in predictable, evenly spaced amounts. You worked, and at the end of the week or the month, a roughly similar number landed in your hands. Your brain built its sense of safety around that rhythm. When the rhythm is reliable, your nervous system can relax between paychecks. It doesn't have to stay on high alert, because it already knows what's coming. Freelance and gig income breaks that rhythm completely. You might make $8,000 in March and $1,200 in April. You might land a huge client in June and then watch July go almost silent. Even if the yearly total adds up to more than a comfortable salary, your brain doesn't process annual totals. It processes the next 30 days. And when the next 30 days are unpredictable, your nervous system doesn't get the all-clear signal that a steady paycheck gives a salaried employee. It stays partially activated, scanning for threat, even during the good months. That's not anxiety in the clinical sense necessarily. It's your biology doing exactly what it's designed to do in an unpredictable environment. The problem is that this environment, this irregular income, is now permanent for you. So the alert system that's supposed to switch off between threats never fully does. This is why so many freelancers describe a strange feeling. They hit a big financial goal, clearing six figures, building a decent emergency fund, landing a long-term retainer client, and instead of relief, they feel almost nothing, maybe a day of satisfaction, and then right back to checking the bank balance obsessively. If you've experienced that, it's not because you're an ingrate or incapable of enjoying success. It's because the underlying uncertainty that's driving the anxiety hasn't actually gone away. You solved last month's problem. You did not solve the structural problem, which is that next month is still unknown. Now let's talk about the second piece of this, which is something psychologists call hedonic adaptation, and it interacts with irregular income in a particularly cruel way. Hedonic adaptation is the simple, well-documented fact that humans get used to almost anything, good or bad, relatively quickly. You get a raise. You feel great for a few weeks. And then that new income level becomes your new normal, and you stop feeling great about it. For salaried employees, this mostly shows up as lifestyle creep. You make more, you spend more, and your sense of having enough never quite catches up to your income. It's annoying, but it's manageable because the income itself is stable. For freelancers, hedonic adaptation collides with income volatility in a worse way. Say you have an incredible quarter. You land a client paying triple what you used to charge. For a few weeks, you feel like you've made it. But your spending and your sense of what's normal adjusts upward almost immediately, and then the inevitable slow month arrives. Now you're not just dealing with less income than your best month. You're dealing with less income than what your brain has already decided is your baseline. The drop feels much larger than it actually is, because you're measuring against a peak that was never your average to begin with. This is one of the most underrated reasons freelancers feel anxious, even when their yearly numbers look great. They're not comparing this month to a calm, reasonable average. They're comparing it, often unconsciously, to their best month ever. And almost every month will lose that comparison. Here's the third piece, and this one is less about psychology and more about a very real structural gap that most personal finance advice completely ignores. When you're a salaried employee, A huge amount of your financial security is invisible to you because someone else is handling it. Your employer is automatically withholding taxes, so you never have to think about owing a lump sum. Your employer may be matching a 401k contribution, building retirement savings whether you remember to do it or not. If you get sick for a few days, you might still get paid. If the company has a bad quarter, you, individually, do not usually feel it in your next paycheck. None of that infrastructure exists for you as a freelancer. You are the HR department. You are the accountant withholding your own taxes. You are the retirement plan administrator. You are the sick leave policy. Every single piece of financial protection that a salaried employee receives passively, automatically, without thinking about it, you have to build manually, on top of already doing the actual work that earns the money. This is a genuinely heavier cognitive load, and most freelancers never name it directly. They just feel generally more stressed about money than their salaried friends, without realizing that a meaningful chunk of that stress isn't really about the money itself. It's about being the sole administrator of an entire financial safety system that, for a salaried employee, is mostly automated in the background. And this leads to a fourth factor that compounds everything else: comparison. Most freelancers' closest friends, especially earlier in their freelance journey, are still salaried employees. So the natural human instinct to compare your situation to people around you keeps comparing your wildly variable, self-administered financial life to people who get a steady direct deposit every 2 weeks and don't have to think about quarterly taxes. That comparison almost never lands in your favor emotionally, even on months where you're earning more than they are, because the thing that's actually being compared isn't the dollar amount, it's the certainty. This is worth sitting with for a second, because it explains something that confuses a lot of high-earning freelancers. Why does someone making more money than their salaried friends still feel less secure than they do? The answer is that financial security isn't just about how much money you have. It's about how confident you are in predicting what you'll have next month. A freelancer earning $90,000 a year with wildly unpredictable monthly income can feel less secure than a salaried employee earning $60,000 a year with total predictability. The number is bigger. The feeling of safety is smaller. And most financial advice never separates those two things, because most financial advice is written by people analyzing income, not analyzing uncertainty. So if all of that is the problem, the broken paycheck rhythm your nervous system can't settle into, the hedonic adaptation that resets your baseline to your best month, the missing infrastructure you have to build yourself, and the comparison trap with predictable income peers, what actually helps? I want to be honest that there's no single trick that erases this. But there are systems that directly target each of these four mechanisms. Instead of generic advice like, just save more, which doesn't address why the anxiety exists in the first place. The first system targets the broken paycheck rhythm directly, and it's something a lot of full-time freelancers eventually land on. Paying yourself a fixed, artificial salary out of a separate business account, regardless of how much actually came in that month. Here's how it works in practice. All client income goes into one account. Think of it as your business account. From there, you transfer yourself the same fixed amount every 2 weeks into your personal account, like a salary. In a great month, the extra stays in the business account as a buffer. In a slow month, you still pay yourself the same amount, pulling from that buffer. What this does psychologically is recreate the steady rhythm your nervous system actually wants. You stop experiencing income as a series of unpredictable spikes and drops, and you start experiencing it the way a salaried employee does: the same number, the same schedule, every time. The volatility doesn't disappear. It just gets absorbed by the business account instead of hitting your personal life and your nervous system directly. The second system targets hedonic adaptation, and it's deceptively simple. Calculate your true average monthly income over the last 12 months, not your best month, and build your entire baseline lifestyle around that average, not your peak. This sounds obvious, but almost nobody actually does the math. Most freelancers carry an intuitive, emotional sense of what I usually make, and that intuitive sense is almost always skewed toward recent good months. Sit down, pull 12 months of actual deposits, divide by 12, and use that one number as your only reference point for what normal looks like. It will probably be lower than you expect, and that's exactly the point. It resets your comparison baseline to reality instead of to your best month ever. The third system targets the missing infrastructure problem, and it's about building, piece by piece, the things a salaried job gives you automatically. That means opening a separate tax savings account and moving a fixed percentage of every single payment into it the day it arrives, before you can spend it. So quarterly taxes stop being a crisis. It means treating retirement contributions as a fixed line item taken from your salary transfer, not something you do when there's extra, because there will never reliably be extra. It means pricing a basic health insurance and, ideally, a disability insurance policy into your actual cost of doing business, the same way a company would, instead of treating it as an optional expense you'll get to eventually. None of this is exciting advice. It's deliberately boring, because boring, automated systems are what replace the invisible infrastructure a salary job gives people for free. And the fourth system is less about money and more about who you're comparing yourself to. If most of your social comparison set is salaried employees, you are structurally guaranteed to feel behind, regardless of your actual numbers, because you're comparing dollar amounts without comparing the certainty that comes with them. Finding even a small number of other self-employed people through communities, through other freelancers in your field, who understand the real shape of irregular income, gives you a more accurate comparison set. It's not about avoiding your salaried friends. It's about recognizing that comparing your income volatility to their income stability is comparing two genuinely different financial situations, not two performance scores on the same scale. If there's one thing I want you to take from this video, it's this. The anxiety you feel isn't a sign that you're failing at being a freelancer. It's a completely predictable response to an income structure your nervous system wasn't built for, made worse by a financial system that assumes everyone has a steady paycheck and an employer quietly handling the rest. You're not broken. You're running a small business with none of the automated infrastructure a company gives its salaried employees, and almost no one ever explains that to you directly. The good news is that every piece of this is addressable, not by trying harder or worrying more, which is what most freelancers default to, but by building the specific systems that target the actual mechanism behind the anxiety, the fixed salary transfer, the true average baseline, the manual safety net, and the right comparison group. In the next few videos, I'm going to walk through each one of these systems in much more depth, starting with exactly how to set up the salary transfer system so you can build it this week, not someday. If this video helped make sense of something you've felt for a long time but never quite had words for, subscribe, because that's exactly what this channel is going to keep doing. Not generic finance tips, but the actual mechanics of money when you don't have a steady paycheck. I'll see you in the next one.